I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Port Huron City Council to order, and I'll ask the clerk at this time to take the roll, please.
Councilmember Archibald?
Here.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Here.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Here.
Councilmember Warden?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Present. Council members, you have before you the minutes from the regular meeting of March the 12th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Ashford. Archibald, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Lamb. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as submitted, please signify by saying aye.
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 Nays have the same right. Motion passes. Councilmember, we have before us, we have 3 presentations, and I'd like the clerk to read the first presentation.
Proclamation recognizing April as Child Abuse Prevention Month will be presented to representatives of the St. Clair County Child Abuse and Neglect Council.
Okay, and who will be the person accepting? Okay, and Sherry. Okay, and I'll meet you at the podium. Okay. All right. Okay, step right on up here. And I know people get tired of these whereases, but it's very important when we have these whereases, because there's a lot of whereases, and it's because of the importance and the significance of what it's representing. So just bear with us. So this proclamation is being presented to the Child Abuse and Neglect Council, and it reads as follows. It says, whereas Port Huron children are our future. Whenever one child is abused or neglected, the entire community suffers. And whereas in St. Clair County, 4,685 children were living in homes investigated for child abuse and neglect, and 586 children were confirmed victims of child abuse and neglect. And whereas 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused by the age of 18, child abuse is one of our nation's most serious public health problems, and studies have well documented the link between abuse and neglect and a wide range of medical, emotional, and behavioral disorders, including depression, alcoholism, drug abuse, and juvenile delinquency. And whereas unemployment, poverty, parental drug and alcohol abuse, stress, and social isolation increase the risks for an environment in which child maltreatment can occur. And whereas promoting optimum family functioning, resilencing, adequate social support system, and knowledge of parenting, child development, all are known protective factors which prevent child maltreatment and help strengthen families. And whereas this month and each month hereafter, the City of Port Huron, under the leadership of the St. Clair County Child Abuse Neglect Council, pledges the strength of our entire community to prevent child abuse and neglect and not stand in silence. Now, therefore, in the stead of the Honorable Mayor Pauline M. Rapp, by the authority vested in me as your Mayor Pro Tem, and on behalf of Councilmember Archibald, Harris, Lamb, Ruiz, and Warden, do hereby proclaim April 2018 to be Child Abuse Prevention Month, acknowledging our community's responsibility and duty to cherish our children and help them grow and develop in their fullness potential. Let's have a round of applause for Child Abuse Prevention Month. And this is being presented to
Did you forget my name?
Sherry Archibald. Yeah. Sherry and
I'm Lindsay.
and Lindsay, it's a pleasure meeting. Would you like to have a few words?
Oh, just a few.
I have a stack it on. Okay.
Quick. I'll be quick. It's a little weird being down here instead of up there, right? Mayor Pro Tem Ashford, fellow council members, City Manager Freed, thank you for this proclamation and good evening. For those who don't know, I'm Sherry Archibald, Executive Director of the St. Clair County Child Abuse Neglect Council, and with me tonight is Lindsay Chop, our Prevention Education Coordinator. We're here tonight to once again bring awareness to child abuse and neglect as we recognize April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. We're also here to tell you, child abuse prevention isn't just for a month. It's ongoing. We recognize child abuse, especially sexual abuse, does not make for great morning coffee or evening dinner conversation. But those conversations are the first step in raising awareness and in acknowledging child sexual abuse is happening. And awareness and acknowledgement are the first steps in preventing it. As we stand before you tonight, there are approximately 42 million Americans living in the United States who have been sexually abused. And that number does not include those numbers that have been physically abused or neglected. There is a report of child abuse every 10 seconds in the United States. More than 90% of child sexual abuse victims know their perpetrator. 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 4 boys will be sexually abused by the age of 18. In 2017, the St. Clair County Child Abuse Neglect Council provided prevention education to over 5,000 children and served 223 alleged child sexual abuse victims. Through Lindsay's efforts, prevention education is provided throughout the community and to children in elementary, middle, and high schools throughout St. Clair County. Her prevention education includes personal body safety, sexual harassment, sexual assault, social media safety, child safety training, safe sleep, never shake a baby, mandated reporter training, and darkness to light. At our Child Advocacy Center, we provide forensic interviews of victims of alleged child sexual abuse and severe physical abuse. Victims and their families also are provided advocacy services and ongoing supports. In recognition of Child Abuse Prevention Month, we have several exciting things that we would like to share with you. On Monday, April 2nd, we will once again be tying blue ribbons around the lampposts throughout downtown Port Huron. In addition, this year, we have partnered with Natalie Watson, the Downtown Development Authority, and the YMCA to plant blue pinwheel gardens in all of the flower beds throughout Port Huron and in front of the Y. The pinwheel is a happy, uplifting symbol of childhood, and we invite you and the public to join us at 2 p.m. on Monday, April 2nd, as together we plant 2,000 blue pinwheels in reflection of the bright future all children deserve. Both the ribbons and the pinwheels will remain up for the entire month of April. Our annual Dinner for Kids' Sake, previously held in June, has been moved to April to coincide with Child Abuse Prevention Month. The Run for the Roses, Dinner for Kids' Sake, will take place at the Blue Water Convention Center on April 11th at 6 p.m., where in true Kentucky Derby fashion, guests will have the opportunity to place their bets on a variety of silent auction items, baskets, and human horse racing. They will hear from guest speaker Aaron Murren, who is a 2-time child sexual abuse survivor, author, and founder of Aaron's Law. Aaron's Law makes it mandatory to teach prevention education in schools. It has now been passed in 31 states, including Michigan. We will also recognize Child and Community Advocates of the Year, Prosecuting Attorney Mike Wendling, Sheriff Tim Donnellan, and former Radio First General Manager Larry Smith. Registration for the dinner ends Saturday, March 30th, so register soon and join us for what is sure to be a great evening for a great cause. We thank you again for the proclamation and the community for supporting us and recognizing children cannot stop child abuse. Adults can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Archibald. Can you read the next?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
If I may, just
Sure.
a word regarding the Child Abuse Council and being in schools for so long. I just want to say it's just a great agency and does so much for children. And whereas Sally Straffen did a great job for a good number of years, I'm sure it's in great hands right now with Sherry Archibald. I'm thrilled the fact that she's now the leader of that group. So just wanted to say that. Thank you
for your comments. Are there any more comments? Yes, Sherry, I have heard that too, that how you've taken over the helm and the trailblazing efforts of Sally Strafford. You know, we always leave something, we go up from there, and so I know she is very, very proud of where you're taking the agency today.
Thank you. Very big shoes to fill.
Right, okay. City Clerk, the next.
Proclamation recognizing April 3rd, 2018 as National Service Recognition Day will be presented to the Council of Aging Foster Grandparent Assistant, Jason Crawford.
Okay, Jason, can you come down, please? How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Doing good? Great. Jason, and you are?
Glad to meet you. I am Jeanette Wilomowski, one of the foster grandparents.
Okay, it's a pleasure meeting you. And you? Grandpa Ken. Okay, I can call you Grandpa, right? Okay, Grandpa. Sure can. All right. Okay, well, it is a pleasure and certainly an honor, and not just, you know, for fashion, to be able to present this proclamation to you today. So here goes, the whereases, and you got a lot of them. Okay, so whereas the city, whereas service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges, and whereas the nation's cities and counties are increasingly turning to national service and volunteerism as a cost-effective strategy to meet their needs, and whereas AmeriCorps and Senior Corps participants address the most pressing challenges facing our communities, from educating students for the job of the 21st century to fighting the opium epidemic, to responding to natural disasters, to supporting veterans and military families, and whereas national service expands economic opportunity by creating more sustainable, resilient communities and providing education, career skills, and leadership abilities for those who serve, and whereas AmeriCorps and Senior Corps participants serve in more than 50,000 locations across the country, bolstering the civic, neighborhood, and faith-based organizations that are so vital to our economic and social well-being. And whereas national service participants increase the impact of organizations they serve, both through their direct service and by managing millions of additional volunteers, and whereas national service represents a unique public-private partnership that invests in our community solutions and leverages non-federal resources to strengthen community impact and increase the return on taxpayers' dollars, and whereas national service participants demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, a commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors, and whereas the Corporation for National and Community Service shares a priority with local leaders nationwide to engage citizens, improve lives, and strengthen communities, and is joining with the National League of Cities, the National Association of Counties, Cities of Service, and local leaders across the country for National Service Recognition Day on April the 3rd, 2018. Now, therefore, in the stead of the Honorable Mayor Pauline M. Rapp, by the authority vested in me as your Mayor Pro Tem of the city, and on behalf of our council members, Archibald, Harris, Lamb, Reeves, and Warden, do hereby proclaim April the 3rd, 2018 as National Service Recognition Day, and we encourage our residents to recognize the positive impact of national service in our city, to thank those who serve, and to find ways to give back to their communities. Thank you all so very much from the heart.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Council, for acknowledging us today. I'll keep my comments brief. I know you have a very full day and night ahead of you. I'm with the Council on Aging. We are through the St. Clair County Council on Aging. We have the Foster Grandparent Program. It is a nationwide commitment to provide mentoring, relationships, to improve at-risk youth in the communities. We have approximately 75 foster grandparents, ages 55 through 90, that volunteer all through St. Clair County, the majority of which volunteer right here in Port Huron area schools, at all the elementary schools, actually. And I have two of our foster grandparents with us today. Our foster grandparents, countywide, contribute to over 60,000 hours of volunteer service, and we affect and impact over 400 at-risk youth. Our foster grandparents they're grandparents to any child, but every teacher and every classroom has those few kids that just need a little extra TLC care and attention. So our foster grandparents are working with children that come from single-parent homes, from parents that are deployed overseas, that are struggling mentally, have some sort of disability, and they come alongside them. They help them with their math, they help them with their reading, and just overall just provide companionship and friendship to be an encouragement. So thank you for your acknowledgement. On April 3rd, we are going to have a meet and greet opportunity at the Council on Aging. That'll be Tuesday, April 3rd from 10:30 to noon. And the city and the public are all invited to come and hear more about what we're about. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And again, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
if I may, and I'm sorry to do this, but
Councilmember West?
in regards to the grandparent program, I had the benefit of working at 3 schools, Kimball, Garfield, and Michigami, and at all places they had the grandparent program. And Grandpa Ken, if I remember correctly, from Michigami,
Yeah.
still doing it. Thank you. It's a good time to thank you again for all the good years we shared together, and trust me, they make a great difference in the classrooms they're assigned to. And if I may, also I'd like to recognize someone I did not have the opportunity to say thank you to. She recently passed, and that was Grandma Jerry Kimbrough. And at times, she was such a strong force in that school. I wasn't sure who the principal was at the time, and Grandma Jerry was there because she was that kind of woman.
Yeah.
But Grandpa, again, a great model, and thank you for all that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Councilmember Williams. Very fitting. Okay, we have another presentation that the clerk will read.
Fire Chief Dan Manguy will present the annual Fire Department report.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, Manager Freed. Thank you for letting me have the opportunity to give you a look back on the year 2017 as it relates to the fire department. I've put together a few slides for you to help bring everything into perspective for you. Calls for service in 2017, we actually saw a slight increase, just shy of 30%. But I do want to point out to you the 2 smallest columns are structure fires. Our structure fires over the past 4 years have stayed pretty flat, from 82 to 62. So it's nice to see that those aren't getting away from us. Non-structure fires, again, have the most chance for property loss and life safety concerns. They're actually down quite a bit. So as we move to the left, EMS calls, relatively steady, a slight uptick in those, and I'll get into that a little further down the line. Total calls for service were up, like I said, 27%, up about, and that equates to 798 calls, about 2.2 calls a day up from the past year. I do want to point out to you that I'm referring to these as calls for service because they're not necessarily responses. We're notified of several things that generate a report number through central dispatch, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we've left the station, but we've been put on standby or we have different notifications that are made. That's why I'm referring to them as calls. They're not necessarily responses. Of those calls for service, I've split them up into the 3 districts in the city. As you know, our central station is located on River Street. They have a slight increase. Again, staying consistent in the 30% or a little less than 30% range. The next is Station 3. up at the north end. It's just a slight increase at 20%. And then Station 4 had the highest uptick of the 3 stations at 37%. What I want to clarify and point out to you is that throughout my career, and especially most recently, we're seeing a continued trend in that Central Fire Station handles about half, 52% of the calls in the city, and the other 2 stations about a quarter apiece. So cumulatively, we come up with our 100 calls, and that's remained consistent. So albeit there's a raise in Station 4's district, they're still handling about a quarter of our calls. So I just wanted to point that out to you, that they're increases, but they're not anything that are outside of a normal increase. Our fire inspections are up, and this number fluctuates. As we've presented to you in the past, we have a 2-year rotation program set up in our fire prevention and our commercial business inspections that we are into every commercial building in the city every 2 years. And so that number fluctuates from last year to this. The increase is directly related to when these businesses are scheduled. If they were just in last year, then it will be down the road before we're back in there. So there's some varying with this depending on the scheduling. Our public education contacts are down slightly, but I want to explain how they're down. We saw a reduction in requests from large groups for presentations, which is something we really can't control. We advertise the ability that we do that, but we haven't had the increase or the requests that we've had in years past. Where we have had a significant impact in reaching our citizens, though, is through the partnership with the American Red Cross and their Home Fire Safety Campaign grant program, whereby we go out as engine companies, as fire crews, and install smoke detectors in residences that don't have them. I'm happy to tell you we visited 78 dwellings within the city and installed 198 smoke alarms. Those are alarms that weren't there or were expired or were inoperable for folks that may otherwise not be able to either attain one or have one installed. So overall, we're still out very active in the community and still have those connections to prevent life loss in the city. We are proud of that fact. Numbers are up and down. It just depends on the requests, and we try to accommodate them the best we can. Narcotic overdoses, we have saw a significant increase in those since 2014. You might as well say we hardly had any in those years, and now they're on an uptick, and that pretty much speaks for itself. It's clear that that's an issue, and that's not something that we can directly control. Thanks to the millage passing in direct support of our millage, we've been able to hire initially 3 new firefighters. They're identified here on the left. At the top is Cody Gordon, the bottom is Pete LaFata, and to the right over the patch is Kevin Dittenber. We are sustaining our roster, and we actually have another candidate in process that's going to start on the 9th of April to replace Battalion Chief Mark Ford, who just recently retired as well. So we are grateful to the citizens and want to assure them that we are continuing to do what we said we were going to do with maintaining our roster. Our training focus this past year, I've highlighted the rapid response diving at the top. You may have saw some articles on that in the media. Due to a grant that we had received from an area industry, we were provided 4 self-contained breathing apparatus, diving apparatus, that we're going through training right now at the YMCA, and these are going to be incorporated into tools that we can use for quick dives in 30 feet or less of water, perhaps off our shoreline or from our rescue boat where we have known parameters and maybe a victim that has just slipped below the surface, and previously we didn't have the capability to do that. This equipment would give us an opportunity to make a quick rescue while we were waiting for the dive team. And our high-angle rope rescue is still a pretty extensive, specialized skill that our members train on, and that I can point out to you is the Bancroft Street Water Tower. So that was last year's rope rescue training that prepares us for the unknown. I mean, you get up there changing lights or putting a new antenna up or painting these tanks and something goes awry. Guess who's going to be there? It's going to be us. So we want to maintain those skills. This is a picture, as you recall, almost 1 year ago to the day. In fact, the 10th of April of last year, you gave us approval and approved the purchase of a fire truck. There's the picture of our Sutphen Monarch pumper down at the plant in Columbus, Ohio. We're slated to go take delivery of that truck on the 13th of April. And so that will be back, and once it's outfitted, I want to either bring it to a council meeting or invite you to stop by the station, sit in it, take a ride in it for those of you that have never rode in a fire truck, because it's definitely, with some recent mechanical issues with some of our older equipment, it can't get here too soon. So I wanted to show you a picture of the process. It is a lengthy process. We had initially expected a build time of about 10 months, but with mechanical things, it's the way it goes. So we'd rather wait, have it done right, and even though it took a little longer, have it ready when it gets here. So that ends my presentation, but I certainly welcome questions, clarifications, anything that you might have fire-related that I can.
Councilors, do you have any comments or like to share anything?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, if I could just quickly say, I appreciate Chief Main Guy. He took over, was that July of last year? July of last year, and well, we didn't miss a beat, to be quite frank. It was he's seamless transition. He's done an excellent job of continuing the implementation of best practices and continued improvement. And so I just want to say, Chief Main Guy, thank you for your leadership. 27 years, how long have you been here now?
It's my 32nd year with
32nd year.
26 with the fire department, but my 32nd year with the city will be October.
Excellent. So he knows his way around the fire hall pretty well by now. But I just want to thank you for your leadership. It's been a tremendous, as city manager, it's nice when you have professional people in-house to promote within that can carry on the mantle, and he's done an excellent job of staff development. So just kudos to you. You've done an excellent job without missing a beat, and not that I ever thought anything differently, but just thank you.
Great. Thank you.
And Chief Mayor, on behalf of the entire city council up here, we appreciate what you do as first responder and yourself and the passion that you put behind doing your job on behalf of all our residents of the city of Port Huron. So thank you so very much.
Great. You're entirely
nice
welcome.
Report.
I appreciate the confidence in me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now, this is a time that we will move on to the public comment portion of our meeting. If anyone in the audience wishes to address the council on any agenda item or any item under the city's jurisdiction, now is the time to do so. You will have up to 4 minutes for your comments, and please give us your name and address if you would like to have comments. And I would also like to quote the ground rules. We do not have back and forth, and that's for a good reason. That's to give you more time to say what you have to say. But if there is a question that you need answered, you know, we can do that after the meeting, but we will not get into an interchange, you know, while we're here at an active meeting. So with that, do we have anyone that would like to come forth at this time?
Howdy, everybody.
Hello.
My name's Alex Mackin from I live at 1703 16th Street. All right. Hey, if the police can't help, call the fire department. We just played our house off, and we've been contesting this whole lien thing, and it's been a nightmare. Y'all are frustrating as can be. We came here last week. Actually, no. The whole thing started with me waking up to the lawnmower. This guy screaming at me in the lawn after I told him to leave. He says, "I'll be back, I'll be back." The cop comes. He comes with a gun. I don't care how you break it down. A person came to my house with a gun to tell me to mow my lawn. And then they did it without my permission. I called you. The lady said, "We didn't think you were home." So that's cool that you steal houses using the lien process. It's legal. Happens again, you blight us, we take pictures, we come here, we talk to you, I give you all a piece of paper that says...
Excuse me, just one moment.
I'm sorry, my family's here.
I know
Are they being too loud?
I just wanted to make sure that we hear you. She's already going out, so I just want to make sure everyone can hear. So,
Woods comes to our house, he says, I measured your grass, it's 8 inches. There's no proof in my Freedom of Information Act request that I received from y'all that I paid for. I called you about it. I said, come out. You didn't come out. You sent Woods again. After we received the blight notice, the next day, y'all come with the guns and the mowers again. You charge us as almost twice what the original ticket was. George Sheridan destroyed some of our statuary in our yard and kind of freaked me out. He was making smoochy faces at me. It was weird. I don't know. It was weird. It was unpleasant. Felt targeted and preyed upon. We made our refusal of service clear. We make our intent clear that we maintain our property. What do we got here? After all this goes down, when we come here and complain to you last week, you send the cops to our house. You send the cops to our house to intimidate us, to say that we're making threatening hand gestures. You come here, this is just like you accusing Phil Reisner of bribing you for $60,000. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense. I got better things to do. I have better things to do than come here to tell you that you're abusing us and taking us for everything you can get out of us. It doesn't make sense. You know what this means? This means cool. You know what this means? I don't like that. Cool? Don't like that. All works. You know what this means? This means I block that. I can't stand that. I'm going to walk away if I can't work with y'all on that. These are some of the foundational hand signals from the consensus process, something that we use in the anarchist community. And you know what that means? We're better organizers than y'all. You got the guns, you got the money. You got the guns, you got the money, you got the guns, you got the money. That's what you got going on. It's springtime.
Mr. Macon, excuse me, Mr. Macon, your time is up, and I thank you so very much for addressing the council.
Y'all are fascists.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Do we have anyone who else would like to address the council at this time? Thank you. State your name and address, please.
My name is Matt Aliaga. I am the president of the Port Huron Professional Firefighters Association, Local 354. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Ashford, City Council members, City Manager Freed. I'm just here tonight that I want to give full support for Ordinance 18-005 that will be given its first reading tonight. Our union believes this ordinance, if adopted, will better serve our members of the community in which we work and protect for every day. Our Union Executive Board would be happy to further discuss the ordinance with any members of council or any citizens that may have any questions. Thank you for the opportunity tonight, and have a good evening.
And thank you for addressing us tonight. Do we have anyone else that would like to address the council tonight? Seeing and hearing none.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I could quickly just make a quick comment. I see a couple of the business owners here from along Quay Street. And I just wanted to take a quick moment to address the article in the Times-Herald on the Quay Street development. I just want to note the Times-Herald did a story on our upcoming DDA meeting on Wednesday that noted that we'll be talking about a conceptual design for Quay Street. I sent that out in an email to City Council to brief them on what the DDA would be talking about, as well as the DDA. Once I send out an email like that, it becomes public, and the Times-Herald has the ability to publish it. I just want to say at this point to the business community, I'm asking the DDA permission to even have a conversation to talk about the conceptual design. There's no plan in place, there's no decisions being made, there's no design done. It's nothing more than a doodle. The DDA will talk about it on Wednesday morning to see if it's something we want to pull the business community together to discuss, or we'll just let it die on the vine. So I see a couple of you guys here, and I talked to Nick, I believe, at his restaurant as well. No decisions have been made, no plan is in place. We're just going to talk about the conceptual on Wednesday. If we decide to have the conversation further, if they want to explore it, we're going to do a roundtable meeting with all the business owners and our engineering staff on that street. There's a pre-construction design meeting going to happen. So when we're going to reconstruct Michigan Ave and Quay Street, we're going to have a pre-construction meeting with all the business community where we're going to discuss some of the ADA sidewalk issues we have, specifically on Quay from Huron to Michigan. There's some ADA sidewalk issues we're having to comply with. So just to ease your concerns that nothing's been decided. It's nothing more than literally a doodle. It's nothing more than a conceptual design and doodle. We think it's interesting to talk about. The DDA may say it's not even interesting and not want to talk about it. We'll find out Wednesday morning. But again, nothing's been decided, no plans in place. We would never do that without meeting with you guys.
Again, this is still the public hearing time. If you're in the aisleway, you still have the right to talk, and I encourage you to have your name and your address, please.
My name is John Roach, 405 Quay Street. I'm the owner of the Roach Bar.
Okay.
I'm just here for that reason because I was never notified of that.
Yep.
And, you know, I want to make it clear that so far, what I've seen, I can't buy into.
Okay.
You know, for my business, it'll be detrimental, and most of my neighbors share the same idea. Tom at the Alley Rooms told me I could use his name to say he wasn't notified either, and he's not for it either.
Okay.
So I just want to be on the record for that.
Right.
I encourage you to come Wednesday morning as well if you want to sit
Wednesday morning, 8:30?
Yep, 8:30. Yep.
We will be there. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Mr. Roche. Anyone else out there like to come before? Okay, I guess our public hearing is now closed. We will now move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Clerk will take the roll.
Mayor,
Uh,
yep, sorry. Mayor Pro Tem Ashford. Can you, is it number 7, Resolution 18-041?
Number 7?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, is there any? Okay. Clerk got that? Okay. So that was Councilmember Archibald, and it was seconded by Lamb, was that? Okay. So I will proceed to read the, take the vote, I'm sorry, for the consent agenda. My bad.
Okay. Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Yes. Okay, and the following consent items, under communications and petitions, receive and file notification that James C. Soto has been appointed by the mayor to the Traffic Study Committee with term to expire March 14th, 2020. Under boards and commission, receive and file a copy of the completed 2018 assessment roll. Under resolutions, authorizing the submission of a grant application in the amount of up to $300,000 to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund to assist with the improvements of McMorran Place Plaza Pocket Park to provide accessibility by removing architectural barriers, including sets of steps, changes in elevation, retaining walls, and deteriorating concrete surfaces. Create an open space, safe and flexible space for public use and new outdoor recreation activities, and if funds are awarded, authorizing the acceptance of the offer to provide for the required local matching funds. Resolution number 4, authorizing the submission of a grant application in the amount up to $300,000 to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, Land and Water Conservation Fund to assist with the improvements of McMorran Place Plaza Pocket Park to provide accessibility by removing architectural barriers, including sets of steps, changes in elevation, retaining walls, and deteriorating concrete surfaces. create an open and safe flexible space for public use and new outdoor recreation activities, and if funds are awarded, authorizing the acceptance of the offer and provide for the required local matching funds. Resolution 5, authorizing the submission of a grant application in the amount of up to $50,000 to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund to assist with the improvement at Palmer Park to provide accessibility and inclusive play equipment by paving north parking lot to include ADA spaces as accessible walkways from parking to play areas, new universal design and inclusive play equipment, benches, picnic tables, and recycle bins. And if funds are awarded, authorizing the acceptance of the offer and provide for the required local matching funds. Resolution 6, 6, authorizing the submission of a grant application in the amount of up to $50,000 to Michigan Department of Natural Resources Recreation Passport to assist with the improvements at Palmer Park to provide accessibility and inclusive play equipment by paving the north parking lot to include ADA spaces as accessible walkways from parking lot to play areas, new universal designs and inclusive play equipment, benches, picnic tables, and recycle bins. And if funds are awarded, authorizing the acceptance of the offer and provide for the required local match. Resolution number 8, confirming and approving single lot special assessments for fines, assessments, and or the cost of removing blight, blighting factors, and or causes of blight, as well as the abatement nuisances. Resolution 9, confirming the city manager's appointment of Jacqueline Roth as a residence, neither tenant nor landlord, to the Rental Housing Board of Appeals with a term to expire June 10, 2019. Resolution number 10, approving the reappointment of Michael Artman, Kira Moss, and Gerald Saunders to the Historic District Commission with terms to expire March 10, 2021. That is your consent agreement. Now we will move on to from the city manager. Yes, and council members, actually looking over the agenda, we're going to take 1 and 2 together because they're different funding levels, and then the next 2. So is that, anybody have any objections to that?
No.
Okay. Clerk, would you?
Accepting the unit price bid from Chemtrade Chemicals US LLC in the amount of $347 per dry ton for an estimated 370 dry tons of aluminum sulfate for use at the wastewater treatment plant and water filtration plant. And then accepting the unit price bid from JCI Jones Chemicals Incorporated in the amount of 0.795 cents per gallon for an estimated 178,600 gallons of sodium hychlorite for use at the wastewater treatment plant and water filtration plant.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Lamb. Is there a discussion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, just this is part of our annual chemical purchase we make on an annual basis for our wastewater plant, and you'll have some coming for our water plant. That's pretty much standard annual purchasing.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, Councilmember Harris.
I talked to Lenny just prior to the meeting and stuff, and as you know, I kind of like to look these things over, but I guess the only thing that stands out is the price increases, and I guess we're all going to catch that down the line. But as far as with the bid from ChemGrade for chemicals, it was only a 5% increase. But our other thing here for the sodium hypochlorite saw a 25% increase, and I guess it's the cost of doing business, but I just hope that we be able to balance our incoming budget with these increases, because I don't expect them to end, and when we get to the next 2 items, I'll cite the same concern. They kind of stand out because I know we're living on a budget, and
right,
and these things will throw it out of whack. So, but thanks for the information.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Harris. It's a good eye on watching those dollars. I hope we can count on you. And then afterwards, I'll probably have Lenny come up when we do the next 2 and just give us an overview whether we can do something about it or we can't, you know, in terms of how you bid it and et cetera. Okay, are there any more?
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Councilmember Ward?
Yeah, just a quick comment again. At least we have, the bidding process. There's 2 bidders that is substantially less on this resolution, or from the city manager, number 12. And again, on the second one, substantial, 206,000 was the next closest. We're getting it for estimated 141,000. I guess what I'd like to hear maybe for the next is just how many might be out there, and what other avenues, if we are going to have these major increases from all suppliers, is there more that we can reach out to? But you can address that on the next one.
Madam Mayor, Pro Tem, if I could, there's only a limited amount of people who are licensed to distribute these chemicals, and there's only, because of trucking cost, you're not going to solicit bids from the entire state of Michigan. You're going to solicit regional bids. And so from regional level, there's not many suppliers, so you're only going to get bids from a certain people who are licensed to do this. So these are the same group of bidders we've had for the last 15, 20 years. Sometimes you'll have a company that won't bid on another chemical because of the trucking. You can only carry certain chemicals in the same truck together. And so there's a lot of operational issues that go with it, but this is not a type of product you're going to solicit statewide bids with. This is a regional hauling cost that factor into bid amounts, and so these are typical of our annual bidding because of those 2 reasons, trucking costs and licensing.
Okay, thank you. City Manager Freed?
Yeah, just one says New Jersey and the other one says Baltimore, Maryland. So, at least we got some bids, and we got we got a competitive bid substantially better, so I appreciate that. And I do want to say thank you to Lenny and to provide us with this little comparison for last year versus this year. This was, thank you very much. It was very, very helpful.
Madam Mayor, just real quick in response to that, it's because they come over on ships. So you have Eastern Seaboard shipping containers for some chemicals, Great Lakes shipping for other chemicals, and train and barge. So it's depending on international shipping on these chemicals. Not all of them come from the United States.
Yeah, and Councilmember Ward, and just as a FYI, that spreadsheet, it was at the councils before you got here. That's the way we wanted, because it kept coming before us. So, and they tried to meet us there.
It's great.
So it is a great piece. Yep. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, any more conversation on that one, discussion? Okay, hearing none, the clerk will take the roll.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Yes. Okay, clerk will take the next 2.
Okay. Accepting the unit price bid from PVS Knollwood Chemicals Incorporated in the amount of .094 cents per wet pound for an estimated 605,000 wet pounds of sodium hydroxide for use at the wastewater treatment plant. Accepting the unit price bid from Carmuse Lime Incorporated in the amount of $227.72 per dry ton for an estimated 400 dry tons of hydrated lime for use at the wastewater treatment plant.
Council members, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, second.
Support.
Councilmember Lamb, discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
just kind of reminder again, and I'll kind of paraphrase Mr. Freed is, we got an 18% increase on the first one and a 6% increase in the other. And if anybody does anything with shipping and stuff, you know that probably 12% of the 18 probably come from shipping and stuff. So I guess we're still in the ballpark, but it's another cost that we got to look at. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Harris. At this time, Lenny, can you come up and address us as far as competitive bidding, and if we can do better, and if we can't, what's our barriers holding us?
Mayor, council members, Mr. Freed. Actually, the city manager has pretty much hit the nail on the head in that what we do is we solicit nationwide for chemicals, but the only companies which actually will deliver are those that have a local distribution. And the local distribution can be from Detroit, it could be from Canada. We go as far as Kansas City, all through Canada, for chemical companies that can provide these. And they're relatively common, but they do require special handling. They are hazardous. And so there's only so, it's the trucking cost more than anything is the component of the price that we really don't have that much control over. And we've noticed in the last 12 months that trucking has gone up for everything because the economy is recovering and trucks are now very busy. So it's not the chemicals themselves that are necessarily more expensive. You know, for example, the sodium hydroxide, which was used for odor control, went up 2 cents a pound. And that's not very much, except when you consider we're buying 600,000 pounds. That's the only reason why it looks like so much. So I'm hoping that if you have any questions, this is our annual chemistry test. So I'll be happy to answer any questions on that.
No, I think it's just for the most part. I just wanted clarification on that. And, you know, Councilmember Lamb is new up here, so we don't want to always, you know, just run through it and take a lot for granted because those of us know. So that was large in part my reason for having you up there. Thank you so very much. Okay, and we will, council members, with your permission, oh, we got to take the vote, but sorry, I'm trying to get out of here, I guess.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Yes. Thank you. Council members, you have before you from the city managers 5, 6, 7, and 8, and they all deal with weed control or a type of maintenance. They're all in one. So do you have any objections to taking those all together? Okay, hearing nothing, clerk, would you proceed with reading 5 through 8?
Accepting the bid from Major League Landscape and Lawn Care LLC in the amount of $1,395 per mow and trim of approximately 120 city-owned vacant lots. Accepting the bid from Clean Cut Maintenance LLC in the amount of $560 for sidewalk snow removal with an estimation of 10 times per year of approximately 120 city-owned vacant lots. Accepting the bid from Unique Clips in the amount of $795 per mowing and trim for lawn maintenance of various city-owned parks and properties. Accepting the bid from Kevin's Lawn Care in the amount of $11,948 for lawn maintenance and weed control of various city-owned parks and properties.
Okay, Councilmembers, you heard the four. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second?
Second.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Lamb.
If just quick explanation, I just want to say to Lenny and his team for aggressively getting bids on this. These companies do not, the margins here are very thin. This is not a very profitable contract. It's a lot of work for very little profit. Just right off the bat, Clean Cut and Kevin's Lawn Care you see their name popping up for the last couple of years. They've done a tremendous job. They've done excellent work for us. And so I know it's not some lucrative contract they're getting where they're making lots of money. This is on the margins. I also want to say that part of our initiative to sell vacant city-owned land that's unbuildable is helping to reduce these costs because we don't have these properties that have to be mowed and snow plowed and all that. But I just want to say to the vendors, I appreciate the competitive bids, but also not only bidding competitively, but doing a quality job for us when they're not making a lot of money on it. And I know that Ben from our Parks and Recreation could attest to that. They've done an excellent job for us, so just thank you to them.
Okay, Ben, did you want to attest to that? Okay. Council members, do you have any discussion on 5 through 8?
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford.
Councilmember Warden.
I just want to say this is 4 different ones. The first, again, looks like 4 or 5 bids, and again, it looks like the next closest is roughly $265 savings per each one, $1,395 compared to $1,660. So I want to give, and then again on this sidewalk snow removal, I think there's 2, $1,130 per one, and the lowest bid came in at $560. So substantial savings again. And again, on the third one, again, having these all together, $795 is the lowest bid, and the next closest is $1,040 per time. So I just want to say again, thanks. This is, you know, I love to see the more bids in a lot of the local or close areas coming in to help us out here in our city, and to have these, it looks pretty valuable. They're all bidding on the same estimated amount of city-owned parks and lots. So thank you for that work of getting these low bids.
Thank you, Councilmember Warden.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Councilmember Harris.
I just wanted to thank him on the job he's done in this too, because I just did some quick math and I didn't do it before I got here tonight, but you look at it, you cannot get a boy to come over your house and shovel anything for less than $20. And even at $20 a piece, each time they remove snow would be $4,400. So we're getting one heck of a bargain. So I can't say nothing against it. It's all positive, so thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Councilmember Harris. Any more comments or discussion? Okay, if the clerk would take the roll, please.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Yes. Clerk will read the next from the city manager.
Accepting the proposal from Access Rec LLC in the amount of $6,285 for 50 foot of blue polyester rollout mat for ADA compliant beach accessibility surface for Lakeside Beach.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second?
Second?
Second by Councilmember Lamb. Discussion?
Madam Mayor, I just want to thank Nancy for taking proactive steps to make sure that our beach is accessible to all of our citizens, even those with accessibility needs. This blue mat will allow for all people to, and Ben as well, allow people to get to the beach and get to the water and enjoy it. So again, innovative and proactive way to make sure we have accessibility for all our Reds. Thank you, Nancy and Ben.
Any more
Mayor Pro
discussion?
Tem.
Councilmember Warden?
Do we have these before, or is this something new? Just, is this something we had, something similar, or?
Nancy, could you please come forth and respond to Councilmember Warden's?
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, as you've probably seen, we do have one that's there now. When we did this project, we were given it to us from a construction project from engineering. It's called Mr. Boardwalk, and I want to say it was like 10 years ago. And we were running a little short on the project, so Ben and his crew retrofitted it for making accessible walk, because we, you know, that was one of the grant requirements. But we did put it in the budget this year and budgeted for one that particular one shifts a lot, and we have a lot of lips because it's made out of wood. This is actually, I know Ben has done a lot of research. It's, I would say, what do you say, more, it's used in a lot of like ocean front towns and different things. So he's done a lot of research to make sure it's going to be safer and it's going to stay in place. So we're excited it was in the budget this year to do that. So.
Oh, okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
just to continue, I just want to say thanks that, you know, a lot of people don't, all the little extra things you guys think about to make sure it's accessible for everybody to use our facilities and amenities. So thank you for finding that, and I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know Ben's crews have done a lot of work on the old one, so I'm sure they're excited to get one that actually stays in place, and I think it'll be better for the residents as well. So.
Okay. Any more?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Councilmember Harris?
My only question is 50 feet enough?
Yeah, I guess what is Ben?
Okay, thank you.
He's the technical guy.
This Ben. Oh, okay. So he's asking you, was 50 feet enough? Yeah, so, okay.
Affirmative.
Affirmative.
Okay. Okay, well, I guess you've answered us. Thank you so much, Nancy. Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, clerk, would you please take the roll?
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Yes. The clerk will read from the city manager.
Accepting the sole source quote from Innovative Software Services Incorporated in the amount of $188,545 for a city income tax software program.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Lamb, discussion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Excuse me, just one minute.
That's okay. He's probably going to say what I'm going to ask.
Well, it's our meeting, so Councilmember Archibald, I'm recognizing
I see Jim has come down to talk to us, so I would like to know the reasoning that this is a sole source bid.
And just once, before we get to that, I want to jump in and just give you, this refers back to the council adopted goals to upgrade our software throughout the city. We're beginning with our income tax division. That's the most antiquated system we have. We had moved over in the last fiscal year. We had budgeted $400,000 from the general fund. We moved to the land purchase fund for the intent of investing in software upgrades. So the funding for this was allotted in the last fiscal year and will come out of that $400,000. This was intentional from a multi-year goal strategy from the council. So it matches your goals. It matches the funding we allocated at the end of the fiscal year, the $400,000 transfer. So that's where the funding will come from. Jim will come up and talk about why there's only one company in Michigan that does 22 income taxing cities.
You went kind of fast, so the funding was already there, set aside.
Yep, we intentionally did this last year knowing this was coming.
Okay.
So, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, the question is, why is there only a sole source? It's very specific software. Only 22, I believe 22 cities in the state of Michigan have software or have income taxes. Only 2, us and Hudson, still use their own home developed systems. And so and innovative software does almost everybody in the state of Michigan. They sort of wrote the book on it. Once we decided that our approach was to buy a commercial package, we really only had one option, and they own the marketplace. But they came in and did a presentation for both the other Mr. Brennan and Mr. Laratonda of the Income Tax Division. They're very knowledgeable. They have a full line product. We think it'll be a good solution for us.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Archibald. Any more discussion?
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem.
Warren?
So with this new software, just if you can speak to, how much conversion from you said our own basic proprietary system that's antiquated, and is there going to be a lot of transfer over to this? And I guess, what makes this so much?
You can go back and file, I believe, 10 years of income taxes, so we're going to have to convert income taxes for roughly 15,000 to 18,000 returns a year for the past 10 years. We're going to do that. The other part of the conversion allows for automated processes to tick through the various stages that a income tax return goes through, from being filed and approved and scheduled for a payment, or there might be letters required and all kinds of different stages. This software has a dedicated workflow that tracks each piece of each return through its life cycle. We don't really have that, so part of the conversion is to go through and map our processes and then sort of express that in software, if you will. So that part of the conversion is fairly extensive. Plus, it will generate a lot more customized letters that have to be created. But they assured us the conversion is a worst case number, and because they're going to be dealing with, I think, a professional staff, we can cut that number down, but that was their estimate. That's their quote for it.
Are we still going to keep our own, as far as backup, and just speaking to an organization that has gone from one method to a new database management system going forward? I know the headaches, and we just keep the old one as a backup and kind of move forward with the new. So if we need to go retrieve some of those old documents, we can. Or is this all just going to be?
No. This is the first stage in the process to retire the IBM System 390. It's been running every day since 1999.
Awesome.
In our list of things we were going to consider as options, one is to do nothing. That option has been used the last 5 or 6 years. We think the time is out for that. So in addition to this, as the resolution said, we're going to be coming to you also with an integrated accounting and human resources and payroll package. Additionally, there will be a hardware request to support that, a Windows virtualized environment. We're used to backing up things, so we think that will be taken care of.
Well, I want to thank you very much for putting all the time and effort and patience over the years to finally, like we said, we're only one of the two that don't have the software, so at least there's other cities that have gone through kind of the hiccups for us and for the software program.
Yeah, it's a very mature product, so we think we should.
Thank you very much for your time and your details on this.
Thank you, Councilmember Warden.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Harris.
I had the privilege last Friday to talk to Lisa with Innovative Software Services, and I can assure you by just the conversation that I had with those people that, like they were saying there, we're one of the last ones that don't use their system because most of the majority, the huge majority of Michigan use it, but they also do income tax services for 35 communities in Ohio, and I just the pleasantness of talking with them and their truthfulness and stuff, I don't think how we can miss on this because the experience speaks for themselves, and I will be supporting it.
Anyone else before I ask this? Okay. What are the highlighted features of this software?
It's not very sexy. It's really enter the return, check it out, and issue a check. But this will give us the ability for people who use TurboTax. We're one of the few cities of Michigan that you can't, if you file on TurboTax, it won't at least generate your return for you that you can submit. Another option would be it could move us toward more automated filing. That's an option for the department to decide. I'm not really advocating that one way or the other. But there's a lot of newer online processes that will be open to us that really aren't now.
Okay, and I did hear the customized letters. Well, as a part of that, yeah, okay. I just wanted to know if we're getting the software, what are the benefits, features that we could really, kind of put our teeth into.
Biggest benefit is we'll be allowed to continue to do this for years in the future, which is not guaranteed.
So the longevity and the quality assurance of going forward would be best said, I guess, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, just back to the council goals. This was something about the customer service aspect, whether it be going online and be able to do things online or filing income tax return. This is a whole host of customer service initiatives that we're undertaking, a large portion of which Jim and his team are going to have to do, whether this is just one component. So throughout the next year, Jim will be bringing you, as he noted, a whole host of options to bring us into the 21st century. Things have changed. No longer use the abacus as much.
Yeah, and since things has changed, I mean, is there training come with this? Oh, okay.
Yes. In fact, $7,000 worth of training.
Oh, well, you better make sure you learn something. Okay, that's a lot. Okay, all right, thank you. Any more questions? Okay, thank you so much. Great job. Okay, if the clerk will take the roll, please.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Yes. Okay, from the city manager, number 22.
Accepting the quote from On Duty Gear LLC in the amount of $9,000 for the purchase of 20 ballistic helmets using funds from the St. Clair County Prosecutor's Office Forfeiture Grant Funding Program and the Drug Forfeiture Account.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Lamb, discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Councilmember Warden?
I just a question. Do we already have some? Are these the first ones we're purchasing or kind of getting updated, new technology?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Ashford, City Council, Mr. Freed. Yes, We do already have vests. They're over 15 years old. These are vests, I'm sorry, ballistic helmets. Yep. They're 15 years in excess age-wise. These will be replacing those, the 20. And they really recommend we replace them after 5 years. We know that they go longer than that. The shelf life is longer, but our ones we have now are getting really old.
I just want to say, again, that grant funding and drug forfeiture, from the prosecutor's office, I think we just talked about that last meeting or the meeting before. Great use, and I appreciate you bringing that to that, a good use of funds for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not really a product you want to test the shelf life on.
No, we don't. Hope we never use them, but
got to keep them safe.
Fortunately, it's one of those things we need.
Okay, any more questions of Chief? Okay, guess you're free to go, Chief. Okay, if the clerk will call the roll, please.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Yes. Okay, that concludes from the city manager. We will move forth with our resolutions. Number 1.
Authorizing and approving the submission of the annual action plan for program year 2018 to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for their review and approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, second.
Second.
Councilmember Lamb. Any discussion? Hearing none. The clerk would take the roll, please.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Yes. Resolution number 2.
Authorizing the Director of Public Works to commit and purchase salt through the State of Michigan My Deal Extended Purchasing Program for 2018-19 season.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Lamb, is there any discussion?
Madam Mayor, I would just like to say, DPW Director Lenny has a way of throwing a wet blanket on the first week of spring, bringing the salt contract for the next winter, the first week in spring.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, is there any more discussion? Aside from Lenny's wet blanket? Okay, well, hearing none, the clerk will take the roll, please.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Yes. Resolution number 7.
Supporting the Community Foundation of St. Clair County as a recreational partner eager to seek funding opportunities to expand and improve recreational sites and programs for St. Clair County residents and visitors of the Blue Water area.
Motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald? Oh, no, that was Councilmember Lamb.
We tricked you.
My apologies. And second?
I'll second.
Okay, Councilmember Archibald. It's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Councilmember Warden.
The reason why I pulled it off just the consent agenda is, I noticed the Community Foundation, St. Clair County, and we're, I guess give me a little background on this resolution of, has this been done before, and is it something that is just for an annual thing for it to kind of do joint? I just have some questions just of what it is and what we're doing, and then, what is this?
I believe we have, Mrs. Harmer and okay, we have the dynamic duo up here, okay?
All right.
We're lucky.
All right, go for it. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford and Council, basically what this is some grants like to put them in different foundations. So with the Wilson Foundation, they work with other foundations. So we're lucky McMorran has a endowment fund at the Community Foundation here in town. So that's the way we have to apply. So luckily we have Kim. She does all the applying, and we'll be putting the application together, but they don't give funds to municipalities. They like to go in an endowment fund for that particular. I don't know if you want to add to that. But.
Well, and also, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Ashford, council members. Always nice to be back.
Nice having you.
With a lot of these, what they're looking for in order to score high and to compete, because they are of such a competitive nature, is some sort of resolution or declaration from the city showing their support in these endeavors. And we have a fantastic reputation in applying for federal, state, and local grants with our partners and collaborating and working together. So anytime that we can highlight that on a grant application is to our benefit and to the benefit of not only the residents of Port Huron, but the surrounding area. So this is just another way for us to be able to work together, show our support, and then allow the Community Foundation to go in, and not only with the Wilson, but anything else that might be out there. Opportunities come when we least expect it, and we like to be ready, we like to be prepared to go. And again, we have a reputation of being efficient and quick on our responses, and we want to maintain that. So we thank you for your support.
I just, a follow-up is the Community Foundation has so many, they offer so many different, for donors and different characteristics. Is this something you just reach out to them about a potential and see which potential Community Foundation account or fund that they're managing there might apply?
Yeah, we're very fortunate. Randy Miners, works very well with us, and when we heard about this particular opportunity, he was very quick to want to be able to help us. So again, it kind of comes down to sometimes funds are restricted where they don't, they'd rather give to the endowment funds because they know that their money is going to go towards the project they intended it for. So we're very lucky to have a foundation that works so well with us, and Randy's been very helpful in helping us.
Okay, so
and like Kim says, we'll be looking for other ones too. And there's other ones that the rec department also do that need a 501c3, and many times we don't have that particular declaration. So then Randy also will let us work with them because we do have a fund for the city of Port Huron and for McMorran. So
yeah, I guess what I'm looking ahead is I brought it up kind of before when we were talking about McMorran back before the recent decision on that. Just the overall having such a great resource right here in our community to work with, and if there's a way for them as a community foundation, do they have to actually set up different specific directives of a fund that might go to help with your grant process of what you're looking for, or does it go the other way where you guys are looking for a grant, talk to them and say, hey, can you?
Yeah, the answer is both ways.
Okay.
They do grant monies for different projects that are within their mission statement.
Yep.
Whatever their mission is for that particular cycle. And then also, in this case, it was a grant that fit within one of our endowments that was already established. So, yeah.
Take it any way we can.
Yeah. Right.
Thank you very much for sharing what this is. And again, I love to see it, and I strongly support it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim and Nancy.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, anybody have any other questions?
Please, if I could, just anytime we get, thank you for dealing with the Community Foundation. Long ago I had good fortune of serving on some subcommittees and watching the process they go through. And anything that has their fingerprints on, they make sure it's a good project. Mm-hmm. They make sure that the money is going for that project and it can sustain itself afterwards. I mean, they just simply don't hand out money and just let it fly. I can't think of any better organization to be engaging in any projects, because I know they do their homework, and let's face it, they've done a ton for this community as a whole, not just Port Huron, but the county as a whole. So good work.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, if I could, I just want to thank Kim Harmer again for all the grants that you have written, literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars you have brought into this community. As you all know, Kim has served as our planning director for, Kim, how long were you here at the city?
32 years.
32 years. When she retired, she had job offers from all around the state. She could go make significant amount of money for any private firm doing what she does for us for meager wages, part-time wages. She is pretty much doing charity work. She comes up there in the back and writes these grants and makes us a lot of money through grants and projects that would never happen without her 32 years of expertise. And so I want to thank you for your service to our community. I know we give you a part-time wage, but it's not what you're worth. And so we thank you for all that you've done. And we could, if she ever left us, we could never find a grant writer as good as she is. I don't think so.
She said she likes recreation better, by the way.
It's more like
Thank you,
but
Kim.
as I've said before, and I will continue to say, it's a pleasure to be here, and it's nice to work in your hometown and to see the results. So I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Shows how much you care, and the proof is in the pudding. Yeah. And thank you also. I ditto Councilmember Ruiz's. It's a great leverage when you're dealing with the Atchison Foundation, and then also it's leveraging, you know, if we can partner with them, it's a win-win both ways. So that's a great thing to take place. So is there any more discussion? Okay. Hearing none, if the clerk will take the roll, please.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Yes. Resolution number 11.
Approving the extension of the McMorran Civic Center Authority, governing authority through May 31st, 2018.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Lamb, discussion?
Madam Mayor, we've brought before you a 30-day extension to the McMorran Authority. As we talked about before, 60-day extension. We're in the process of transferring the liquor license, and that process can be very unpredictable. So we have the application in, it's pending, but it has not cleared yet, and so we cannot essentially expire the authority until that liquor license has been fully transferred to the city. We knew this was a high probability, and so that's what this extension's for.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Councilmember Ward?
Just a quick question on this process, if I could, you know, if there's some feedback that was it the Liquor Control Commission or the state there, just the process of potentially transferring this license over to the city, and if some stuff's coming up that's regulation, you know, that's restrictions or something that maybe I'd like to have some feedback on that as it occurs.
Yeah, I can answer it. We have submitted a whole, after the last council meeting, or excuse me, the meeting when we approved the creation of the commission, I have worked with corporate counsel to fill out all the applications. In fact, I signed, since I'm one of the signatories, I had to go through the background check as well. So I've gone through the criminal background check, the fingerprinting to sign the application as a fiduciary for the city. It's in pending. I don't think we've gotten any feedback quite yet, but if we get some, I'll refer it back to the council. I'll email you if we get any feedback. But this is standard. It takes several months.
Yeah. Again, I'd just like to, if there is something that comes back as that might not be what we expect, or some type of not as broad of use of restriction, I'd like to hear that as it comes through, rather than.
Of course.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Councilmember Ward. Is there any more discussion? The clerk would please take the roll, please.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Yes. This concludes our resolution section. We will now move into ordinances. If the clerk would read ordinance number 1.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 2 Administration, Article 3 Administrative Service of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances for the purpose of restructuring the Department of Public Safety into 2 departments, police and fire.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Councilmember Archibald and Councilmember Lamb. Discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Could we get some background? And I know previously we went through an awful lot on the whole taking the 2 and combining them into 1, and now here we sit not long after wanting to take 1 and take them back to 2. So I think for public intent, if we could, or for the public's benefit.
Yep, absolutely. So what this ordinance 4 all the way through 6 intends to is, per the city charter, we have a police department and a fire department. We created a public safety director position in 2013 with the intention of managing both of those departments through a public safety director. I changed that back in July. I promoted a fire chief and a police chief per the charter. We simply do not have a public safety department. We've never had a public safety department. We created a position where one person was overseeing both, but they were never actually merged operations, meaning command and control structure was still separated. And so we found that there was absolutely no cost savings in having a shared director. So essentially we had a captain and a chief of operations and a new position, a director of public safety. There was no need for that position, so for more than $140,000 in cost savings, I promoted the fire chief operations up to fire chief, and the captain to police chief. These are 2 very qualified people who are able to run the department since July now without ever skipping a beat. And part of the millage we brought to the citizen support Huron was we are not going to diminish our police or fire departments. And the residents spoke with 62% voting yes to keep our police department and our fire department staffed and structured in the same way. And so out of respect for the voters, I wanted to clarify the paperwork. So right now it says we refer to public safety director, but we have no public safety director. We have a police chief and a fire chief. And in the ordinance, when it refers back to a public safety director, I need it to refer back to the people who actually have the authority, the fire chief and the police chief. So this is essentially a housekeeping issue to reflect the charter and our current operations.
Okay.
I believe back in 13, there was that we'll create a public safety director position with not knowing in the future if we'd ever go through a full public safety. We researched it very in depth. I sent a team across the state of Michigan to research the public safety model. And we found that for a city of our size, with our call volume, there really wouldn't be cost savings in the first 5 years. It would cost about $2 million to roll out. So we explored it, but we find that operationally, this model works well.
Okay, any more discussion? Did that answer you, Councilmember
Yes.
Archibald?
Yep.
Okay. Any more discussion? Thank you.
Good.
Go ahead.
Thanks.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Basically, it's just a statement about those days when we looked at all kinds of things. We were going through some difficult times, and it was difficult for all parties involved in what we were looking at and options. And at the time, it seemed like a lot of options were on the table. And I think that came of that. And I'm glad you've researched it as you have. I must make a statement, and that is thanks to the police department and the fire department for their professionalism throughout that, difficult that it was, and it was. But they've just shown through that process that this is the best move, I think. It speaks, and to me, I hold them in high regard for how they handled this whole situation and what they went through, and nobody worked harder on getting that millage passed than those two departments. And it just, the city simply said, two good departments, we need to keep them as is. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Ruiz. Councilmember Harris?
Mayor Pro Tem, I guess my look at it is just a little bit different. You know, Chief Reeves spent a lot of time, and the council spent a lot of time on the reorganization and what we're doing, and it's, to me, it's kind of a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction to what we've done and worked so well. You know, if we look back at some of the successes of Chief Reeves and stuff, and we were running kind of wild on our overtime and things like that. We were going out knocking on doors, telling people that we're closing fire station, not us, but and this type of thing. And I think we were trying to put out a fire ourselves when we were trying to do this. So I'm kind of skeptical to jump in this right now with what we're doing. I understand that this is a first reading. It'll give me a chance to do a little more informative, like perhaps contacting our former officer that was in charge of the public safety. But I'm just not ready for a knee-jerk reaction to stuff. I'm open to. I understand that what we're doing now it seems to be right. We got some people running these departments that are the age of my son and stuff, and which is, I guess, a big plus. And but you know, changes are always difficult. Maybe more difficult for an old guy like me than some use. But I can't support this tonight. I may support it if I get some information. It'll change my mind at the next meeting. So just my feelings on the issue. I think it's a big step, and we made the big step a couple of years ago, and we're back to saying, hey, we're not saying we did wrong, but it gives that impression. So thank you for letting me talk.
Madam Mayor, if I just clarify, there was no restructuring done in 2013. The only thing that we did was we gave an additional title to the police chief. There was no restructuring done. Command and control remained the same through each department, fire department and police department. And to be quite frank, I've already made these changes. The fire chief and police chief were appointed in July. I made these changes under this charter. This is just clarifying our ordinance to reflect the changes that are already in place. The police chief and fire chief have already been established. I appointed them in July. And so this is just making sure the ordinances comply with those titles. That's all it's doing. There is no restructuring. There is no changes. It's making sure our ordinances keep pace with who's holding the title. That's it.
So case in point, we never had a public servant
No,
officer.
we didn't.
It's never. So it was just in name only, in print only.
Correct.
Okay. And if we had to hire one, how much would that be?
About an average wage of $115,000 with an 86% fringe rate, so probably around $180,000, $190,000 a year.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Councilmember Warden?
I think my feeling is, I like to have a little more, like Councilmember Harris mentioned, just as something comes up like this, just a little more background in advance of some of the stuff that's getting answered here. And I just, I recognize the police chief and the fire chief, but when it comes to an ordinance reading, I would like to have seen a little more information in advance rather than just, really Thursday till now. And I guess just some of these things to allow us more, I guess detailed or questions that we may have regarding putting this out there for a first reading. So I'm hopefully gonna, with this 1, 2, is it 1, 2, and 3? Are all pretty similar. So this is just one.
Similar, yeah.
I would just, again, just as you might know in your daily routine, but bringing it to us, it's like, okay, Thursday, Friday till today, we need to, these questions we're asking, and I just wanted a little more time in advance for future if you're going to be changing and why.
Councilman Ward, with all due respect, these changes were made in July of last year, and at the time of Chief Reed's resignation, I actually did offer every single council member a phone call briefing to explain the changes. Again, these changes have already been made, and I provided that briefing to you in July of last year. Every council member but yourself received a phone call briefing from me before I made my 2 appointments in restructuring. Before I appointed Chief Baker and Chief Main Guy as the fire chief and police chief, every single council member received a phone call except for you, or an in-person briefing except for you. I never had a return phone call or email from you back in July when we made that change. So, so this structure has been in place since July, and I believe every single council member up here received a briefing from me by a phone at the time of Chief Reed's resignation.
Anyway, Mayor Pro Tem, all I'm asking is, Mayor Pro Tem, again, if it's changed, it's there, just a little more advance of having this come before us today as far as the actual legal reading, which we'll spend some time on and look at it. I'm sure I'll have more questions. That's my only suggestion, and hopefully I'm going to stand by that as you understand that is just a request. Thank you.
But out of respect, Councilman Warden, we made this changes in July of last year. We haven't had a public safety director since July of last year. I thought it would have gone notice that we cut a police chief and fire chief.
Okay, I feel like a tennis ball. Okay, all right. Okay, so with that request, Councilmember Warden, we do accept that.
Thanks.
And I also like to add that if you have, more mounted questions or in-depth questions, I'm sure Chief Baker and Chief Man Guy, you can call them up anytime. I know I do. If what James can't answer or whatever.
Sure.
You always got the staff to go to, and you can do that. So, but in the future, I know everybody don't remember what happened to the next minute. We were all getting older, but if we, if it is, you're gonna bring something,
Yeah, but I just want to clarify, this ordinance
Yeah.
tonight reflects absolutely no operational changes.
No, it's not.
Those changes have already been implemented. It's just clarifying the ordinance so that when we say the fire chief is in charge of this and the police chief's in charge of this, it's not referring to a public safety director, which we haven't had since July of last year.
Yes.
It's the ordinances keeping pace with the operational changes that I implemented in July.
Yeah, and it's a harmless thing. It's not
Yep, no,
costing us anything.
absolutely.
Be
Nope.
respectful
Yep,
of that.
absolutely.
So we'll do that.
And I do want to say this to Chief Baker and Chief Main Guy. Since the restructuring of operations, overtime in our fire department has dropped drastically. And just the last, I think, 6 months, Chief Main Guy has reined it in. That's to kudos to our fire department for better with their scheduling, hiring new hires. So I applaud the fire department for the reforms that they've done. Chief Baker and Chief Main Guy have taken over these departments, and not only have they kept pace with the progress being made, I think they've slingshotted it forward.
Wow.
I think some of the operational changes that Chief Baker has made in the police department, that Main Guy has done in the fire department, has really moved our police and fire department forward. I would encourage you to talk to the police officers, talk to the firefighters, and say, how do you think it's going since July? And I think overwhelmingly, our police officers and our firefighters will tell us that we've made significant progress with this structure.
Yeah, and Councilmember Freed, Councilmember Freed. Comes to Freudian slip, okay. But no, I think that for the most part, when we mention, if I could say, public service, Department of Public Safety, we're really thinking about the neighborhoods and all the other things that people are done, and how are we going to replace that? What do we have in place for that? That's what we will be looking for. Even if we didn't have it. I know it was just on paper, but that's just what I know. It's not about what we all need to know is how we're going to fill that, or how are we filling that gap. Community service officers or whatever, that's the kind of conversation we need to hear in order to make intelligent decisions, based on what we have before us. So I think that's what's really missing. So any more conversation on ordinance number 1 here? Okay. The clerk would please take the roll, please.
Councilmember Harris?
No.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
No.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Yes. Ordinance number 2.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 24, Fire Prevention and Protection of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances for the purpose of updating the chapter to coincide with the restructuring of the Department of Public Safety into 2 separate departments, police and fire.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, a second.
Support.
Councilmember Lamb, discussion? Yes, we had it, okay. Any more discussion? I might say during this time that all 3 of these ordinances, they overlap with each other, since we're talking about the Department of Public Safety. All the changes, they come interplay in all of these 3 ordinances, because they kind of just integrate into each other in order to be effective. So that's what we're doing. So we have to go through all the 3 ordinances. So if the clerk would please take the roll, please.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
No.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Yes. Ordinance number 3.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 46, Traffic and Vehicles of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances for the purpose of updating the chapter to coincide with the restructuring of the Department of Public Safety into 2 separate departments, police and fire.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Archibald, is there a second? Second. Councilmember Last, he tried to beat her to the punch, didn't he?
Somebody had to.
Yeah. Okay, discussion? Okay, hearing none, the clerk would please take the roll, please.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
No.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
No.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashford?
Yes. Well, everyone, this concludes the business of our regular meeting we have here. However, we do have 3 announcements that we would like to share with you. The winter decorations in Lakeside Cemetery must be removed from the cemetery plots by March the 31st. Removal of the remaining items will begin on April Fool's Day, April the 1st. So we're not fooling, so we got to get them out of there. Okay, I thought that should get some kind of chuckle here. Okay. My second announcement is the weekly curbside yard waste pickup in containers or compost bags resume the week of April the 2nd. So those of you that got trash out there, the containers or the compost bags, that starts back again on April the 2nd. And then also we have a really outreach effort that we're trying to get out to our city, all our residents, all you that are listening out there. We have the Spirit of Port Huron nominations, and they are due by March the 30th. And we actually, unfortunately, we only have 5, I believe it is 5. We only have 5 nominations. And in some of the areas, we need, you can place a nomination for Brotherhood. That's a person who has displayed leadership in fostering and understanding and promoting harmony and goodwill among all. We have Civic, a person or a business or organization who has significantly contributed time, talent, or investment to make Port Huron a better place to live, work, and play. And we also have a category of cultural. This is a person who has encouraged the appreciation and advancement of arts and heritage of Port Huron and its citizens. We have one in economic progress, and that is a person or business that has invested or encouraged an investment in the community that has stabilized or enhanced the economic climate and quality of life in Port Huron. We have the good neighbor. We have the heroism. We have the lifetime achievement, and we have youth service. So we have all these categories, and you know, I'm kind of hard pressed to think that we have at least 30,000 residents out there, and we can't find a brotherhood, a civic, a cultural, economic progress. We can't find a good neighbor, a heroism, lifetime achievement, or youth service. So what we're kind of like pleading at this point that you get out there and you try to open up your hearts. I mean, you know, and try to look among you to see who can fit in one of these categories and place their name in. I believe you sent them to our city clerk's office, and we would appreciate that. The more we can get out and touch one another and at least be concerned about others and how we make our city a better place to live and that people want to come to and live, because we're represented and we make up all these good categories of brotherhood and civics. On last Friday, I think we went to a grand opening of the Pelzer, Adler Pelzer. We had people from, I think Dave Haynes and I, from Germany, Italy, and Germany, wasn't it? Or just, well, they were from all over the country. They were talking all these languages. There's acrobats all over the place. Me and Dave was looking at each other like, I hope they don't ask us to turn no flips, you know. But, I mean, it was so impressive, you know, to go in our industrial park and see what they are doing. I mean, these are jobs that are coming to us. I mean, it was just international at its highest, you know. We had kids on Saturday taking center stage, you know, marching against the guns and things. I mean, we have a lot that is happening, and if you don't capture it, you know, we don't capture it as people and human beings, you know, don't leave it to somebody else to do when you can do it. We're all a part of Port Huron. We're all a part of this Blue Water area, and we need to make it so, and we need to stand up. So please, put a pencil in your hand and get a piece of paper and send in your nominations to the City of Port Huron, attention City Clerk's office. We'd appreciate that so very much. And with that, do we have anybody on the council who would like to share anything before I ask for an adjournment?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Just a quick question for it's March 26th, then when does the snow ordinance end for the parking on the streets in the city? Is that end of March? Is that so? April 1st, everybody's going to be okay to get back out there and park on the streets? Yeah, it kind of came up, which is good. Yeah, I just thought that would, you know, we're pretty close here, and that's a pretty big thing. So I figured find out for sure. Get a lot of activity downtown and in the city streets. So I want to thank everybody that actually came tonight and did come up and speak. I always like to do that, whether they're already gone or not, but I do appreciate any comments that they share with us. And again, any of the people that have contacted and communicated with us as council members as well with recent stuff. I appreciate that, to know their concerns and to hear feedback. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. That is important. We always, as a council and a governing body, encourage people to come here to the city council. If you don't want to stand and speak before us, you can always email us. We're on the website. You can call us up. Some of us do answer our phone. I think all of us answer our phones. So on behalf of this entire city council, we'd like to thank you, and God bless you, and God bless America, and thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move we adjourn.
Thank you so much. Adjourn.